Welcome back, this is Goku-san DBZ, and welcome back for a special top 10 list. This is my personal list of my top 10 favorite Sega Dreamcast games of all time. Okay, even though I don't have on me honorable mentions, a couple that I forgot to get cases out of. First of the honorable mentions, Sonic Adventures. Yeah, it didn't make my top 10. I like Sonic Adventures, but not as much as some people do. With that said, other honorable mentions. Street Fighter Alpha 2, or known as or Street Fighter Alpha 3, also known as Zero 3, of course. And yeah, you'll be seeing definitely some, of course, import cases. Also, honorable mentions, Street Fighter 3 Double Impact, Virtual Fighter 3, Mortal Kombat Gold, and last honorable mention, Project Justice, which is a very unique game to say the least. Now, on to top 10. Okay, coming in at number 10 is a game probably some people wouldn't put their top 10. This was a multi-platform game, but personally, I just really like the Dreamcast version the most. It's a game I've always enjoyed. Coming at number 10 is the game Vigilante 8, The Second Offense, which was, of course, the top rival to the Twisted Metal series. Vigilante 8, The Second Offense is really fun, and it plays really solid, especially given it's on the Dreamcast. Obviously, it's the best port of the game, hands down. It's got a good local multiplayer mode up to like 4 people. That's good. Plus, I like the fact that it's an interesting story mode, but in general, I like the mechanics and some of the stages better in Vigilante 8 than I do in Twisted Metal, in all honesty. Coming in at number 9, you hear music in the background from it. Coming at number 9 is Dead or Alive 2, which is the game that got me into the franchise in the first place. This was the game that made me a fan of the Dead or Alive series as a whole. So, thank you, Dead or Alive 2, which is why you're in my top 10 favorite video games, or rather Dreamcast games of all time list. Next up is an all-time classic. By most, some people would have it higher up. For me, though, it's still number 8 of top 10 favorite on the console. Not bad. Coming at number 8 is Shenmue, the original, of course. If you want an English dub of this game on the Dreamcast, though, you had to import from the UK. And that was the only way you could play an English dub version, since it never released domestically in North America, of course, on the Dreamcast. It would instead wait until the original Xbox. But still a classic game, and I consider it an essential to own for any Dreamcast collector. Coming at number 7 is actually a tie between one game case I don't have with me. Instead, it's stored somewhere. Tied at number 7 is Jet Grind Radio, also known as Jet Set Radio in Japan. And it is tied with Crazy Taxi. And this was the game that actually first introduced me to probably my number 2 favorite punk band of all time, The Offspring. Because they basically did the entire soundtrack to the game. So if you're an Offspring fan, this is definitely a game worth playing. I just recommend getting it if you don't have a Dreamcast. This game was also released on Sony, as well as on, I believe it got released on the Xbox. I don't remember precisely, or maybe it was like a sequel. But anyways, definitely a game I say worth owning for the awesome music alone. Next, coming in at number 6, Capcom vs. SNK 2, which is a superb fighting game. Personally, I think the best version is the Xbox version. I just think it plays the best overall. But I would say Dreamcast is probably the second best version of the game. Though you have to, of course, import this from Japan if you want to play it on the Dreamcast. Keep in mind, the only way you can play Japanese imports is one of two things. Either you need a Japanese Dreamcast, or option two, if you have either a Game Shark or a Codebreaker, you can override region lock. So that is probably why the price on Codebreakers and Game Sharks have been going up a lot, especially on consoles like, of course, the Dreamcast, as well as other consoles. Also, you can use that to override region lock. But just a little piece of info just to know about. But solid game, of course, and such a good game at that. Coming in at number 5. A very criminally underrated game in my opinion. And that is Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver comes in at number 5, favorite Dreamcast game. Why? It's a lot of fun, and this is easily the most superior version of this game. The PS1 version can't even touch the Dreamcast version in performance. Because let's be honest, the Dreamcast is like 4 times more powerful than what the original PlayStation was. And the PlayStation 2 was just slightly more powerful than the Dreamcast. Not by a huge margin like some people would make you believe. Xbox, the original, maybe, but no. This is easily the best version and best port to get of the original Soul Reaver game, which of course I recommend to anyone who enjoys really good, honestly, platformer type games, and I love the fact puzzles and everything in it. That's a big thing I've always enjoyed about games like this. And just in general, the gameplay is solid. In general, it's just a really fun game. Coming in at number 4 is definitely a game that's gone up quite a bit in price over the last several years, I've noticed. 4th favorite game, I consider the Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy VIII. Well, probably better go with 7 gameplay-wise. But, like Pop, I think in caliber, it is the Final Fantasy VII of the Dreamcast. And of course, Skies of Arcadia, which I consider a must-have for any Dreamcast collector as well as any RPG fan. If you have a Dreamcast and you love RPGs, this I would consider a must purchase, but only if you're willing to pay the price or you get lucky out in the wild sometime. If you can get a really good deal on Skies of Arcadia, take it. Given what this game is going for nowadays, I would definitely recommend trying to find a good deal, because otherwise you're going to be shelling out like $100+ for Skies of Arcadia. I looked out a few years back, finding a copy for a reasonable price, so I immediately jumped on it to get this. Coming in at number 3 is easily the best horror-themed game on the Dreamcast. And it's still my favorite version, though I do play the PS2 version probably a little bit more, just because I prefer not to wear out my Dreamcast copy. But for me, 3rd favorite game on the Dreamcast was Resident Evil Code Veronica. Of course, later, for some reason, they would add an X to it and call it Veronica X. On the GameCube, and of course, on the PS2. But with that said, it is a really good, solid game. I think this game still plays pretty well on the Dreamcast, in my opinion. Has it aged great? No, but graphics aren't everything. Gameplay is, and story. And personally, I like the story of Code Veronica. In my opinion, this is probably the most underrated Resident Evil game in the franchise as a whole. It's way better than Resident Evil 5 or 6, which are nothing but mindless action games. This was the last true old-school Resident Evil game, in my opinion, and hopefully eventually it gets a remake. Coming in at number 2, using, of course, my replacement case since I lost the original years back, like over 10 years ago. Coming in at number 2, favorite game on the Dreamcast, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Which I just recently did a best of worst list of the roster of the game. But as I've said before, this game is just super fun and solid. And it has aged pretty well, being just 2D with some 3D backgrounds. And it definitely is probably the most unique soundtrack out of the franchise as a whole. Some people hate it, but personally, I like the whole jazz and blues feel of the soundtrack. Though, I'll be honest, I like the music probably from Capcom vs. SNK 2 more than Marvel vs. Capcom 2. But still, I've been playing this game for years and years. Yeah, number 2. Number 1, though, has no rival. Not only my best favorite fighting game on the Dreamcast, my favorite game in general on the Dreamcast. Coming at number 1, of course, is the original Soul Calibur. Now, this game has always been superb in my personal opinion. This game is just top-notch, and there are some interesting little cheat codes and things you can do. By the way, in this, which is the Japanese version, I also have the English version as well, though I don't have the original case, unfortunately. But there are special cheats and stuff I know of that only work in the Japanese version of the game. And if you're curious where you can go and find these specific cheats, a website called cheatcc.com, which is a very old cheat code website from really the mid-2000s, but is actually still around. Though I don't like the new layout as much as the old one, but whatever. Coming at number 1 favorite game on the Dreamcast, Soul Calibur. So with that said, I'll get ready to wrap this up. Tell me if in the future sometime you would like me to do a top 10 favorites list on the Sega Saturn, as well as, of course, the Sega Genesis. And I look forward to seeing a response and see what you out there in YouTube land have to say. But anyways, I hope everyone has a good rest of January 2020, and I'll see y'all next time. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel.